Let's take a look at a project hours journal. We'll demonstrate an hours journal, and the two things that we'll do is we'll set it up and then we'll go ahead and create some hours entries using a journal. Okay, so our demonstration will be how to set up an hours journal and then record some time versus an hours journal. So the first thing we're going to do is select the hamburger and go to Project Management and Accounting. And under Setup, Journals, Journal Names is where you can go set up any project module specific journal. There's only 3 journals that are considered project module specific, and what I mean by that is that you actually set them up in the project module. And you can see all the different project module journals. There's 5 of them that are recorded here: hours, expense, items, fees, and beginning balances. And the 3 that you actually set up in the project module are the hours journal, the fee journal, and the beginning balance journal. The expense journal is set up in the general ledger module, and the item journal is set up in the inventory management module. So if we go to journal names and we want to create a new hours journal, we'll just go to the new button and you can call it whatever you want. I'll just call it hours 2 since we already have an hours journal. But the first thing that you'll select is the journal type, and this is where you define what type of journal it is. And this is where you can see there's fee and beginning balance as well, but I'll select hours. Next, you pick the number sequence that you want to associate with the voucher series. So every time you add a line to an hours journal, it's basically suggesting a voucher number. And this is a required field that you have AX define a voucher number for you. So I'm not going to go set one up right now. I'll just pick one. The next is the selection by, and you can and this specifies whether the voucher number will be assigned when the journal entry is made or when it's posted. I always just leave that one alone, and when we add the line, it just suggests a voucher number. And then you can suggest when AX actually changes the voucher. So you could say if there's a new date, it's a different voucher, or you can pick date or employee. So the voucher date, you can set, this specifies whether the voucher date is derived from the project period end date, the ledger period end date, or the project date. So it will specify the voucher date based on whatever selection you pick. And then you can either use details or summary when you're posting. So details would be line specific. Summary, it will condense, if you have multiple lines on your journal, as many lines as it can into a summary fashion. Delete lines after posting. You can have it automatically delete the lines after the posting is complete. And then finally we have 2 other ones. The far right is the approve. That's basically, well, let's say, so the approve is basically if you want to use the project approval functionality, and we'll talk about that in a later lesson. And then the private for user group is basically if you want specific users to be the ones that have access to this journal, you can assign a user group to it. And then finally, there's the show start and end times. And for time recording in AX, you can actually specify start and end times, and it will calculate how many hours that based upon the start and end times that you enter. And if you want to use that functionality, you can. So we set, and I'm not going to use that for our demo. So we set up hours journal now, so let's put it to use. So I have a bunch of projects already in the demo data, and so I'm not going to go and create a project. I'm just going to go directly to an hours journal, and to get to one, you can just go to the project management and accounting module, and then in the journal section, you can go to hour. And then from here, you can see there's some existing ones that haven't been posted already, and they have one line on them and 10, and you can see how many total hours they have as well. If you actually want to take a look at all your posted journals too, you can see there's this show option up top, and you can change that to posted, and then it'll flip to all your different posted ones, and you can select them and go review the lines. And you can change it to all as well, and it'll show you a mixture of posted and non-posted. But by default, it comes in, when you jump into the form, it's in a non-posted view. So when you create a journal, you hit the new button to create one, and then you can see I have a new journal number here, and that's assigned through a number sequence. And basically we have all our different journal names in a drop-down. By default, it's default into the hours journal, and hours 2 is the one I created, and then there's another one in the demo data that has the approval process associated with it. And it's default into this hours journal name because of a parameter that I have set up. And I'll just jump into another instance of AX here, and I'll show you the parameter setup. So if I go under Project Management and Accounting and Setup and then the parameters, there's a Journals tab on here, and we'll select that as soon as the form comes up. And basically what it has is a bunch of fields that say, here's the default journal name for whatever journal you're creating, and then you just go define those. But hopefully this thing pops up here in a second. There it is. So I'll pick the Journals tab, and you can see that there's the default journal names, and there's my hour title right there, and I can pick whatever one I want, but right now I'm just going to leave it as hours. And if you want to use one of the alternate journals, you just have to make sure you select that after you create the hours journal. So, and I'm not going to go through this in the other lessons. This is the one time I'm going to show you this. These are where you can default in the journal names for all the different types that you have. So I'll switch back to this tab. And there's quite a few different defaults that you can set up on an hours journal. And go to the General tab and just take a look. So here's all the information that's pulling in from the journal. So if you want to override it right here, you definitely can. Let me switch this to ours, the one that we created. So now you can see there's no approval in here. And there's the voucher series and all the settings that we set. Default values as well. So if you want to have default values in that roll into the lines when you create a new line, you can. I'll just default in a project number, and I don't know, we'll say they're all billable too. So you can specify those, and then there's blocking as well. So if you want to put a journal, well, that automatically checks it, but there's different blocking functionality that you can use within a journal as well. And then the history will show you when this thing was posted, if it's posted, who is posted by, how many lines, and the total number as well. So we'll jump into the lines. And the way to think of a journal is you're creating the header here, and now there's a different section called the lines section. So if we select lines, we can, and now we're in the lines form. You can actually add a new line now, and you can see that one of our defaults pulled in, or actually two of our defaults, billable and the project. So we can define the category, and we'll just say it's design work that we're doing. The resource pulls in based off my user settings. So every AX account inside of AX has a resource assigned to them, and my resource is number 20, and I believe that's Julia Funderburk, if I remember right. It's different every version of the Contoso demo data, but yeah, it's Julia, this version. So she's the resource that my user account is assigned to, so it's pulling in there. But if you wanted to change the resource, you could. You can define a role, you can enter a description as well. And we'll talk about the different functionality around descriptions here, but I'll just put 10 hours here. And then we can look at the General tab, and if we look at the General tab, it's basically recapping what we had on the lines form and with a little more granularity to it. You can see the cost price and the sales price of that specific line, and and see some of the other type of information as well. So if you want to define the financial dimensions, you can. There's a button up top. And here they are. They're defaulting in from the project that I selected for this specific line. And if you want to adjust them at the line level, this is where you would do that. Other than that, you can validate. Validate just runs through some validation logic to make sure that all the required fields are in there, and it runs through your account structure too to make sure that all the proper financial dimensions are set up. And if there's no problems, it comes back and says, yep, you're all right. The same logic actually runs when you post. So you could just post, and if there's a problem, it wouldn't allow you to post. But a lot of people do like to validate, but me personally, I never do. So I'll just go ahead and post this journal. And I guess a couple of the pieces of information here. So if you had a journal with multiple lines, there's this option here, transfer all posting errors to a new journal, that should say. And if there were any lines that had an error, it would just create a new journal and throw those on there. But I'm not going to have any errors here, so it really doesn't matter. But you can typically put that to yes, so you can have anything that's good post, and all the stuff that's bad just go to a new journal. And you can post in batch as well. So if you want to post this thing as a batch, like have it post at midnight because it's a huge journal or something like that, you can turn on batch processing, assign it to a batch group, and then that batch group you can have run at midnight. So I'm not going to do the batch processing, but I will keep the transfer all posting to a new journal on. But I'll hit OK here. All right, so the journal's been posted. So if we back up a step, one piece of functionality that I want to show is this reverse functionality. So this is basically, hey, we posted this journal. I mean, and instead of using the adjustment functionality inside of AX, you just want to reverse it out and enter a new journal. There's this reverse button up top, so you can select a posted journal, hit reverse. There's the journal number, hit OK. There we go. So I think this was our original. So if we go to the lines, no, that wasn't our original. Let's take a look at what it did. Oh, there it is. Sorry. So there's the negative 10 hours down there. I should have looked for the right journal name. That would have been smart. So if we go, let's do this. We'll look at all, and then we'll filter this field. I think you know where I'm getting. This is just a reversal of it, but that's all right. And you can also use the copy routine too. So if you have a journal that you want to copy, you can copy as well. I'm not going to get into that so much. But yeah, this takes a while the first time you hit it. There we go. I'll just type in hours 2. There's our 2. And you can see one of them's posted, and that was my original entry. And then we had the secondary reversing entry, which if I go look at it, you can see it's got a negative 10 hours. But just so you can see, it's got a negative 10 hours, and it just basically repeats all the settings that we had. And then you can just hit the post button when you're ready and post that sucker through. So, all right, so that's taking a look at how you set up an hours journal and then using it in a transaction posting the journal, I should say, and then looking at some of the functionality around that journal.